Hey there, Matatus today look like buses, and it's kind of distasteful. Hear me out. It's not like it's a bad thing, but I do miss the era when Matatus look like iron boxes, loaves of bread, and your father's work shoe on a random Thursday. So in this video, I am unapologetically looking back at the era when Matatu designers pushed their creativity beyond imaginary limits. Allow me to start with this guy. The streets knew him as Giffaro, and he had one sick facial design. From far, he looked like a normal bus, but standing up close, it was a whole infantry tank. His grill was big and scary, like some shoes only Chimano would make sense of, with air pockets on either sides. Forget the fancy expensive headlights you can spot on any Matatus today. He had some round mean looking eyes and a pinch of round spotlights. Heading upwards, he had pretty normal side mirrors with the cape-like design right on top of the windshield. The camouflage theme was more evident on the sides, with half of the rear tires covered by the steel body, just like those old-school fancy vehicles. Let's have a moment of silence for the mechanics who had to change these wheels. The back was not left out in this outrageous expedition as well, having a huge wing-like spoiler, housing 1,000,001 lights, and some kind of a small box hole in the middle part. So, here's the bottom line. We really can't match it up and win a side-by-side competition with today's standards, but the designers did go out on the proverbial box on this one. That is because he was not fancy at all, but the designers went all the way out to make an ugly, sexy hybrid machine. You can't argue with that. Next, let us look at Catalyst. If you've never heard of this vehicle, then you deserve every bit of the finance bill this government throws your way. It had a yellowish-orange theme with some spectacular noticeable features. For example, the grille did look like it was built from scratch. Matatus today have grills borrowed from other vehicles. Nofia has a Lexus grille, Restoration has a Prado grille, and the list goes on. To think that someone did not let his welding class disappear into thin air like the Nyota project funds, it's spectacular. Another example is the two sets of side mirrors. I mean, the only time I was ever proven to need an extra mirror was to place under a female-dominated desk back in primary school, but I know this one is purely for design. He also had a cape-like forehead with a staircase design. Matatus today will not even go through the trouble of fabricating that. They will just slap in LED lights, vinyl wrap, and call it a manifest. On the side, he had these bizarre bracket-like pillars separating the front, middle, and the back sides of the bus. I'm pretty sure these are not built like that, so take a moment to appreciate that body modification. On the back, there was a top spoiler that ran almost close to the midsection. Again, serious bodywork, but that is not all. He had an entire slot made for a spare wheel and a mixture of both the old school taillights and the new school taillights. Who'd need a back portrait with this design? Not even Viper. Viper had one of the craziest behinds. Not even Ruth Odinga could match up. I know you're interested in behinds, but before we get there, let us start from the front, like responsible humans. He had a bluish theme with a grille fabricated from the ground up. He also had double side mirrors, and I'm starting to feel like this was a trend. Right above the windshield were gigantic shades, but the bigger icing on the cake were on the sides. Buses today are pretty much untouched on the sides, just a couple of graffiti, lighthouse at the top, and they call it a syndicate. On the sides, Viper had literal structural patterns and full window shape modifications, forming its own unique versions of the Catalyst pillars. And now to the back. You might not like it, and to some of you, it might look like an under-budget attempt of a Nigerian movie Witchcraft, but you gotta appreciate the craftsmanship behind this thing. The spoiler in itself was next level, right next to a rear windshield that earned enough money to be called a sunroof. Next on my list is The Flash. Wait, not the movie, just a second. This one. Some would say he had a striking resemblance to Catalyst. Those would be fans of Mosiria. I personally think he had his own tweaks. The front was simple, and unlike his peers, he bailed out of the double-side mirror upgrade. The side was also simple compared to other buses we have seen so far, but there's just something you can't sleep on. There was a whole new set of windows at the top edges. I'm not saying designers today are not doing a wonderful job, but putting those up there might need precise engineering and a good attention span. You can't just get those for free these days. Also, there was this black window line running from the back to the front and seamlessly fusing with the front, giving a perfect dropping illusion. Let's get to the money feature, shall we? The behind. You know how there's usually like an emergency exit behind most buses? Like at the rear windshield? Yeah, that cannot work here. I'm not saying it's a bad design. If anything, this bus had curves. Buses today compete with your girlfriend at being flat. Except for the bumper. They try hard at the bumper. Just like Viper, the windshield here was basically a sunroof, and putting a back portrait on this design would be pure idiocracy. The spoiler looked like fish fins, just like the one from Milkshake. And sometimes wait, do you even know Milkshake? No? Okay, it's your lucky day. White, or rather lightly colored Matatus are countable in the culture, and Milkshake was one of them. By now you already know that double mirrors were the go-to move of class and elegance, so we are not dwelling on that. Other features on the front were stock headlights, a simple but elegant grille, and some spotlights. On the side, there was a massive V-shaped design that ran from the rear spoiler, lower at the midsection, and to the front, forming part of the forehead. And for that, designers had to come with new ways to modify the windows so that it can fit this new design, which they did quite perfectly if you ask me. The design on the back was perfect as well, unless you need to escape in an emergency. Then it was not. There was a very tiny rear windshield at the very top, somewhere near the fin-shaped spoilers, and a whole lot of space for design. They even fitted specific circular slots for the taillights and maintaining the stock ones right beside the tiny rear windshield. Before I give my last sick design, make sure to subscribe if you like my particular brand of buffoonery. Also, remember to turn on that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my subsequent uploads. Also, like this video if you enjoyed it so that you can reach other people who have our same sense of humor. Thank you very much for your support all through, and let's continue. I obviously can't end this video without mentioning the good old Mark. Just like everybody else on this list, his grille was made from scratch with various chrome bits fitted on the front, sides, and that's a feature he maintained in all of its versions. His double mirrors were the most crazy, with witch-like caps pointing backwards. This might well enough have been the Optimus Prime of that era, because he even had those top side exhausts. On the side, he had a zigzag structural design pattern covered in chrome, and on the back, there was a huge spoiler specifically designed to fit. If you thought that Milkshake had a tiny rear windshield, check out the one that Mark had. And again, emergency exit was just but a theory here. The back design also did not miss out on the chrome bits, 11 to be exact, running down to the rear bumper. Matatus today would slap in a huge back portrait and call it a delirium. Leave a comment down below and tell me which vehicles you'd like featured in part 2. And with that being said, see you there.
Papi double tap, itaenda.